Thank you for joining us for My Wildlife Style Radio, a podcast series for busy wildlife professionals like wildlife rehabilitators, educators, and veterinary staff. I am your host, Emily Davenport, and I am the founder and executive director for the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Alliance. We believe helping wildlife professionals experience learning in their preferred format and at their own pace result in better educational outcomes. It is also a part of our mission to help make continuing education more affordable and accessible so that more individuals can participate and become even more effective caregivers. Today, our special guest is David Crawford, co-founder and executive director of Animal Help Now. Animal Help Now is a website and free phone app that connects people experiencing wildlife emergencies and conflicts with professionals who can help. Animal Help Now serves the entire United States. Animal Help Now also advocates on behalf of wildlife and educates the public about minimizing everyday threats to wild animals, such as vehicle strikes, window collisions, and cat and dog attacks. In addition, Animal Help Now provides guidance on finding assistance for domestic animal emergencies, such as lost and found companion animals and neglect and abuse situations. Animal Help Now's vision is a world in which people are educated about wildlife emergencies and empowered to effectively help orphaned, injured, and diseased wild animals. In addition, the vision also encompasses a world where people are familiar with the threats facing animals and act to minimize those threats. And those same people value wildlife emergency services. David, great to have you here today.
Thanks, Emily. It's great to be here.
I've always thought this app was a really excellent resource for the community, and in fact, I've used it myself over the years. How did the idea come about?
Well, the team that put this together has a lot of experience with animal issues. We've all been doing advocacy for animals for years, in some cases decades, working with Rocky Mountain Animal Defense in particular, an organization that was active here for 12 or 14 years in Colorado. And at Rocky Mountain Animal Defense, we would get calls every day for people who were trying to help animals in need. And we were kind of acting, at least in this area, as a bit of a 911. You call us, we do our best to tell you how to get help. My colleagues and I, in addition, once we finished with Rocky Mountain Animal Defense, my colleagues and I, in addition to knowing about this issue, the need to connect people who need help with an animal emergency with people who can provide such help, with experts who can provide such help, we knew about the need. We actually had the skills and the inclination to move forward with this project, and that was the genesis of it.
That's really cool. I can't tell you, because my background is in wildlife rehab, I can't tell you over the years how many people came in with an injured or orphaned animal and said, I didn't even know you guys existed. I didn't even know the rehabber was here. So I think, an app like yours is just so important to connect the public with those professionals.
Thanks. It does help raise awareness. And, I talked about professionally, there's also my personal experience, and I have encountered, since being in Colorado in the early 90s, I estimate at least 50 or 60 animals who needed my help, my personal help. And if I'm around Boulder County, I know what to do for the most part, if it's during the daytime. But if I'm elsewhere in the state traveling, I don't know what to do. So I saw the need as well, with my own personal experiences.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. So speaking to that number that you yourself, the number of animals you have come across over the years, as far as the app goes, how many animals or people do you think you guys have helped over the years? I mean, do you have a sense of number either per year that you can help, or in the grander scheme of things?
We have been quite intentional about not putting any barriers between the people who are looking for help and the experts who can help them. So we have collected very few statistics. We don't require people to give us their phone number or email, etc. All we can do is look at their usage of our on our 4 platforms: the website, the mobile website, and the 2 phone apps. And we can get a pretty good idea from that. We do know that our usage has doubled every year up until last year, flattened out a little bit with about a 15% increase. We estimate we helped about 35,000 animal emergencies in 2017.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And we're on target to assist about 50,000
Wow.
in 2018. We're currently seeing over 700 sessions a day on our 4 platforms.
Wow, that I had no idea it was that large. That's
Massive.
pretty incredible.
And that's nationwide now, and that's only wildlife. Last year's stats were wildlife and some
Gotcha.
domestic animals, but nationwide, when you consider the amount of animals who are getting injured by window strikes or vehicle strikes, cat and dog attacks, we're still just a drop in the bucket on the animals, on helping the people who are trying to help the animals who need it.
That's incredible. And I love your point that you made about not including barriers for the app user, because as we all know, the public can get panicked when they're confronted with an animal emergency, and the last thing you want to do is have to have them register for an app or sign up or put too many barriers involved. So I think that's so important that you guys have purposely built that in.
Thanks. Yep, it's pretty apparent that had to be part of it.
So the app itself is a fantastic resource for the community and professionals alike, but you guys are also adding a wildlife conflict service into your 2018 plan. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say about it is that we added it as a result of lacking good boundaries. We have found that having added it, our workload has really significantly increased, because wildlife conflicts, like wildlife emergencies, it's massive. The wildlife conflicts, and you hear the term nuisance wildlife.
Right, yeah.
We don't say that without putting it in quotes,
right.
or calling it out. But wildlife conflicts, where people have skunks under the porch, or raccoons or birds in the attic, it's a $1 billion industry for the existing service providers. And the problem is that the existing service providers are not, as a rule, using humane methods.
Right.
And there's the people who are in it, a lot of them are in it for money. And not enough of them are in it for the animals.
Right.
We think it's okay to be in it for both. But the idea here is to put people who need help with a wildlife conflict in touch with people who are able to help, true professionals, and who have also been vetted to very strict standards of humane practices, humane operations. So we probably list maybe 1 out of every 500 actual operators in the country.
That's great. I think that's important too, because I know personally there's only one person in the area that we recommend regularly, especially because he has humane practices. So that there are far too many professionals out there that don't use those same humane ethical practices.
Yes, far too many. And one of the nice benefits of what we're doing is people are asking us to be listed. We currently list about 30 nationwide. That's it.
Wow.
Yep. And we do have a couple of those who are willing to take calls from anywhere in the country. So no matter where you are in the country, you will be able to talk to somebody about your wildlife conflict and get advice. But we are getting requests for listing. A lot of these places are 85% good. We tell them we have a mentoring program. They come in, they are on sort of a probationary status. They're working with our select group of 30 wildlife, truly humane wildlife operators, and then our numbers increase because those people want to be, not only do they want to be sort of certified, and I use the term loosely, as humane, but they also they truly want to be humane. They don't realize that when you, they don't always realize that when you trap and move parents, or even if you're succeeding in trapping and moving an entire family, that family is going to do well in another location.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Relocation is not the solution to when you need an animal out of your space, and people are amazed by that.
Right.
because it's so common.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's great. And I think it's really cool because in a different way, you're kind of setting a gold standard for a profession that has really needed to elevate that standards bar for a long time. So that's really cool.
Yes, you probably know that a lot better than I do. Yes.
So that's really neat. I think that's a really important service that you guys have added in 2018. So you list highly qualified, quote unquote, nuisance wildlife operators and consultants for wildlife conflicts. Who do you include among your wildlife emergency contacts?
We include wildlife rehabilitators, both state and federally licensed. The federal licenses are for people who are rehabilitating migratory species. Mm-hmm. So we list state and federally licensed wildlife rehabilitators. We list wildlife hotlines, such as the Dallas-Fort Worth Wildlife Coalition hotline. I'm missing a word in there. And then the bi-state hotline of Illinois and Missouri.
Okay.
We have several hotlines around the country that people in those areas can use, and then we have rescues such as coastal rescues. Mm-hmm. So anything along the coasts in terms of oil spills or stranded marine animals, we list them as well. We do have a select group of law enforcement agencies and veterinarians who will treat wildlife. So it's quite an eclectic mix of animal care professionals.
That's great. That's awesome. And is that just for the United States, or do you guys delve into Canada at all?
We're looking to get into Canada.
Okay, great.
We talk about it every week.
Sure.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we don't know when. It's
Gotcha.
A question of funding. It's a question of finding the right partners up there. We think we're onto the right partners. Now it's a question of taking the time, which is the age-old problem with small nonprofits,
Right.
taking the time to raise the money to stop what you're doing now and start thinking more ahead.
Yep, absolutely.
That's going to happen. I would predict we'd be in Canada a year from now.
Okay,
That's
great.
my
So in
best
time,
guess.
so right now our your resources are for the United States primarily.
Correct, coast
Awesome.
to coast.
Cool, coast to coast, that's great. So I personally think this app is exceptional for the public. I have had people come into my rehabilitation center that have used it in order to find us. I have used it myself to find help for domestic animals, like companion animals. But this app isn't just for the public. How can wildlife rehabilitators utilize this app internally?
Wildlife rehabilitators can use this it can benefit them primarily in a referral functionality sense. Mm-hmm. So if somebody like Greenwood Wildlife here gets a call from the western slope of Colorado, which is far away, but because Greenwood's so big in Colorado, they'll show up the top of Google results list. So somebody will call them from Silt, somebody will call them from Grand Junction, and our app with its referral function feature, it allows them to enter in that person's address and find the closest rehabbers to them. So you can do that all over the country if you get a call from, and like some of these hotlines, they do get calls from around the country.
Yeah.
And so they are able to use our app, and we've trained them in the use of the app. It's part of their ongoing training of their volunteers. They are able to save time and money by using our program to help quickly find the closest experts in the caller's area.
That's great. You know, that is something I hadn't thought about with the app before. We all get calls from cities that are hundreds of miles away from us, or in some cases other states where people just didn't know who to call. They did a Google search and found your wildlife rehab. So I think that's a really important point, because instead of just sending the public to do another Google search within their zip code or something like that, they can quickly and easily help the person on the other line find some help near them. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Absolutely. And it's not just rehab centers that can do that. We heard from a police department in New York just this morning. They want to get our literature. They want to train their staff, their dispatch staff. It's also for vet clinics who are constantly getting wildlife calls. They can use it in that referral capacity as well.
That's fantastic. That's great. So how can wildlife professionals add themselves to your listing? How can they become one of those listed
Most of them are going to be listed because we are regularly updating our data with the state and federal lists. However, people do get, they get their licenses throughout the year, and they can go to our site, animalhelpnow.org. It's ahnow.org for short. And there's a button on the desktop side. They'd be wise to do this from a larger screen device. There's a button on the upper right corner that says Get Listed. Tap that, and we'll put an application in front of you. Same thing for humane wildlife control operators.
And how long does it take you to become approved?
It's usually within a matter of 2 or 3 days, business days.
So that's really fast.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
We just need to verify license information,
right.
etc.
That's important. That's
Yes.
really important. Can wildlife professionals update their own listing on the app?
Not today, but perhaps a month from today.
Okay, wow.
We used to have that functionality, but we've made a major database change to allow us to expand in the future, and that has set us behind in that particular functionality. So we'll be letting rehabbers know, everybody who's in our list, and that's about, I think it's 3,700 or 7,000, I can't remember.
Yeah.
That's but we have about maybe it's 3,700 rehabbers nationwide. We'll be letting everybody know when they can get in there and update their information. We'll be giving them a login information.
Okay, great.
Temporary password, etc.
So that's coming. That's on the horizon.
That's the near horizon indeed.
Awesome.
Yes.
So how can wildlife professionals, in particular wildlife rehabilitators, take advantage of Animal Help Now? We already talked about a couple functionalities. What else can they do? Because it's a really powerful app, I think.
Well, this was designed by our wildlife functionality was designed by rehabbers in Colorado, and so and they really spent a decent amount of time on it. So when we developed it, they were telling us things like, well, we want to be able to set our hours of operation. We don't want people calling us in the middle of the night. So you can do that, and when you have set your hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you will not appear in our top results if someone uses the app at 9 p.m. That's one way to do it. You can also tell us, and we'll tell the users what your preferred method of contact is. So if you prefer text, we'll indicate that on your profile, and people will see that. And if they have a phone that can text, the idea is that they'll text you. But you can choose your method of contact, and we do allow you to tell the public more about your practice, obviously, in addition to just the animals, the types of animals that you're accepting. You can also conceal your listings if you get full, or if you are taking, nobody takes a day off, but if you can't accept animals for one reason or another, you can conceal your listing during the time that you're down.
That's great. Wow. So it's really great that we are able to update our listings as needed. So we should probably, at least for now, contact Animal Help Now directly if we have those updates to make?
Yes.
Okay.
You can find a feedback button on our phone app, and you can find a contact button on our website. And just get in touch with us. Tell us what you need us to change, or give us a call at 303-543-0755.
And you'll take care of it for them.
We take care of it generally within 24 hours,
Wow.
7 days a week.
That's fantastic. You guys might be a small nonprofit, but you're mighty, it sounds like. Small but mighty.
Well, we're good. We have amazing volunteers, and we have amazing staff. And we're really good for our budget. You wouldn't know it, how competent we are.
That's great. So I have known about the app and actually have used the app over the years, but I only realized quite recently that you guys have a ton of resources on your website as well. Are those resources for the public, or can the professionals also utilize them?
That page, which you get to by going to any of our platforms and clicking on resources, that page is it's usable and appropriate for both professionals and for the general public. We have a lot of FAQs on there, not just for wildlife, but also for domestic animals. And in terms of wildlife professionals, which is our audience, we have a lot of like share graphics on there that are appropriate. They're for anybody to use. We have, for instance, the popular, what do you do if you find a baby bird? What do you do if you find a baby mammal? We've updated those, and we have cleaner, newer versions of those. We have ready-made links so that you can, widgets I guess they call them, so that you can go to, put them on your website, and people who contact you can have sort of a fallback, or if you say, if you're not in our area, click this button to find help in your area, and they can go directly to Animal Help Now, and you'll find that same sort of link. We are the primary resource for the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council for U.S. wildlife emergencies. We're the second link on the NWRA's site, and we are on a lot of wildlife centers, rehabilitation centers, sites as well. We really want to be able to serve rehabbers in that way, to take the load off of their front desk staff.
And I think that's such a cool thing that you guys offer. A lot of the graphics on that resource page are beautifully designed. So they're really really nice to look at, really nice to share. And a lot of wildlife rehabilitators and educators and other professionals don't have time to put these sort of graphics together themselves. So you really are helping them in a time management way as well by providing these resources that they can just go to your website, take them off, and then share them with the public.
Absolutely.
I think that's great.
Thanks, Emily. And I know you recognize that, because I know that's part of what you hope to do with the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Alliance. There's so much effort duplicated by so many of the rehabilitation centers. We really, I know we share that. We want to be doing what we can to allow rehabbers and wildlife professionals to do what they do best, and let others do the work that we all have in common.
Right, and I love the idea too by just doing something as simple as including the Animal Help Now link on a wildlife rehabilitator's own website. They can actually cut down on some of the traffic to their phones or to their own emails, because people are going to use your app and find the resources they need instead of bothering I shouldn't say bothering, but taking up those resources from rehabilitators. That's great. That's fantastic.
And we recognize that's asking the rehabbers and the rehab centers to trust us.
Right, yeah.
Because people are contacting them, and then they're saying, you contact Animal Help Now. And so we take that very seriously, and we want to continue to work closely with rehabbers and get their feedback and make the site better and better, and hear their thoughts on what we need to do as a larger community to serve the public and ultimately the animals who need our help.
That's great, and I think that's so important too. You've mentioned that to me on several occasions, so I can tell that is a passionate part of your mission. So one of the other things I'm interested in regards to the app itself is what type of behind-the-scenes data are you able to collect from the app? Do you guys get a lot of information?
So we have two kinds of data that we are gathering, and we just brought on a new wonderful volunteer who's a PhD candidate with analysis and statistics. We are psyched. She's already producing after a week. We have two groups of data. One is on what we call the helpers, the rehabbers, the wildlife professionals, and the various emergency services. And the other is on how the program is being used, the need. So we're looking at the need, and we're looking at the providers, and we're going to be able to identify areas where the need is greater than can be serviced. And where, for instance, certain groups of animals, small mammals or large mammals or waterfowl, are not being adequately covered by the provider. So we're just now doing what I've just learned is called a heat map on this data, and we're starting to do an examination of how they match together. And we're very excited about that, because again, that's part of the bigger picture of making wildlife rehabilitation and emergency wildlife services more effective first of all in the United States and then wherever else we can do it.
That's great. So I'm really interested. I want you to talk to me for a minute about rehab deserts, quote unquote rehab deserts. Last time we were together, you mentioned this term to me, and it has intrigued me. Because here in Colorado in particular, we have had a massive decrease in wildlife rehabilitators in the state. In fact, there was a stat from a study that was done in 2002. There were 117 wildlife rehabilitators in the state of Colorado. Today, there are 23 locations where the public can take wildlife. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
So talk to me about rehab deserts.
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is you look at numbers like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the huge task of figuring out what to do with those numbers. But the first thing is to get the numbers.
Right.
And so you can look at trends, and I think the trends in general are poor. I think, and I'm not saying that with much knowledge other than just anecdotal, and having been here in Colorado during that period of great decline. But what we need to do is we need to look at those numbers, see what areas aren't being serviced. And this changes it can change tomorrow for a certain area. If, for instance, Ellicott down in Colorado Springs, they're gone.
Right.
And they had been there for a long time, but one day, they ramped down, but then now they're gone. And there's a great need for bird rehabilitators in Colorado Springs area and south of there. So we can look at our data, we can look at trends, and then we can make the case, and it's part of a larger case that needs to be made for more state funding, federal funding being put into wildlife emergency services. But the data is a big part of that, and we want to be able to help identify where that additional funding is needed most.
Great. So do you think with the app you'll be able to provide that information in the future?
I do.
That's great.
I do. We could provide it tomorrow.
Wow.
with our new staffer. In terms of trends, that's a more complex task undertaking. But in terms of knowing which areas of the country are being well serviced, we can do that pretty rapidly, matching that up with where the needs are.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. That's really interesting to me.
We'll share that information.
Okay,
Believe
cool.
me,
Yeah.
when we get it, when we put it together,
Awesome.
We'll try to present a paper or a talk somewhere.
Awesome.
and get it published.
I'll look forward to that.
Good.
Now, obviously, this is a great resource for the public, but rehabilitators and educators can actually benefit from this app as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that we offer is, even though we're making it easier for people to find them, we're still claiming that we're lightening their load, because
Sure.
we're helping them. We're helping narrow down the people who contact them. We're helping the people who are in the off hours find the right help, so that they don't have a more seriously impaired animal by the time their center opens at 8 o'clock the next morning. So we're making it a cleaner system, and we respect the fact that rehabbers, we're all on the same page, trying to get that efficiencies increasingly and continuously in place. And in terms of collaborations, another place where we've been looking at lately is hotlines. And so why not have a national hotline? We have all kinds of experience with regional and local hotlines. Why not take that pressure off of the rehab centers too, for the people who are just calling for advice, and we can do a triage at that level and then pipe them through to the rehab centers if we find that that particular call requires that. So there's a whole lot of areas, and the one thing I'd really like to impress upon your listeners, Emily, is that our phone rings. It rings in my house. We're dispersed. We're distributed. Everybody works out of their home or a cafe or something. The phone rings in my house, and I answer it, or at least I get the message. And I am available to talk, and I'm very interested in any kind of collaboration ideas, any kind of feedback that any of your listeners might have, that this conversation might have sparked in them, or that they already have been thinking about for years and they want to talk about. We're not sitting here on any kind of a pile of money, but we have a lot of ideas, and I know when we get this in front of the right people, that we will really move the whole wildlife emergency landscape to a more beautiful. We're not sitting on a pile of money, but we're sitting on a lot of ideas, and this whole community, the wildlife emergency community, is rife with opportunity. And so we want to take the best ideas and collaborate and going forward with others to try to get them realized so that we can take advantage of all the potential for improvement that's out there currently.
That's great. And my one takeaway is, not only do I have a background in wildlife rehab, but I've also spent time in the veterinary field as well. And, at some point your regular animal practice is going to close. It usually closes at 5 or 6 p.m. And then what happens is you leave information on your answering machine about where to go if you have an emergency. I love that wildlife rehabilitators and other wildlife professionals could leave Animal Help Now's information on their own phone line to say, hey, in the event of an emergency after hours, utilize Animal Help Now to find the best resources. I just think that will save so much time on both sides.
I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I hadn't even thought about that. I've thought about going on their websites because we're tech oriented, but people use the telephone.
Yeah.
And that's a great idea, and we'll put that in our next communication with rehabbers.
Yeah, cool.
Rehab centers.
Absolutely. So what do you wish more wildlife professionals knew about Animal Help Now?
That we exist.
Okay.
Number
Totally.
one, that we exist, and that we're serious, and that we're in it for the long haul, and that a lot of us are volunteers, and that we're mission driven and love driven, and we believe in collaboration and communication. And community, and we want to be a part of a wonderful strides that we as a larger community are prepared to make in the coming years to help wildlife. The problem is not going away. We're going to be dealing with, it's going to get a lot worse with rising sea levels, increased fires, flooding. The problem is not going away. The problem is going to get larger, and we need to be as prepared for it as we can be.
That's great. Yeah, that's important stuff. Do you have any one success story that kind of sticks in your mind, or was there a moment that you knew Animal Help Now was a really valuable resource?
I'd like to say that I have success stories in terms of individual animals, and I do. I've used the app myself probably 24 times already, for especially being in Colorado back when we had our domestic animal functionality. I think that I realized that we were really onto something after I saw our usage. The first year was slow, and then the second year we saw a doubling, and the third year we saw a doubling, and the fourth year we saw a doubling, and that's exponential growth. And as we watched that trend, we started to really get heartened by our success. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So what does the future hold? What does the future hold for Animal Help Now? And you have some exciting things on the horizon, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think expansion to Canada is a biggie. I think really promoting our wildlife conflict functionality and working with our humane wildlife conflict community is a biggie. I think working on hotlines and getting more people with a safety net, a hotline safety net, that can work in tandem with Animal Help Now. I think that would be I think that's going to be something that we spend time on. I want to see, in the larger picture, I want increased capacity in the rehab community. We need to figure out how to make it easier to become a competent rehabber. I think improved transportation systems are coming. People who are, there's the REN certified organization in Georgia who's working on that, wonderful organization. I don't see any reason why we can't have streamlined licensing procedures.
Across the board.
Yes, it would be wonderful to have, to figure out a way to get greater and greater involvement of the veterinary community and a more educated and supportive public. I think these are the things that we want to be a part of, at least from our perspective at this point in time. Things change.
Right.
Things change constantly.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. That's really, really great stuff. And lastly, what's your background in, David? How did you fall into all of this?
I would say that this started with my upbringing, with my parents both being compassionate people.
Nice.
I had a good sort of moral, religious foundation. I think I got just the right lessons out of the Bible,
Sure.
The New Testament in particular. I was a sensitive person. I developed a sense of justice very early on. And then I worked in a slaughterhouse when I was
No kidding.
19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And that really opened my eyes, and then I became a vegetarian after that, and really started to think about how we interact with animals. I've always been aware of, as I'm driving down the road, I'm one of the people who keeps her eyes out, like everybody who's listening right now.
Totally.
And so that was always in my consciousness. I moved to Colorado and got involved in the early 90s with the spring bear hunt.
Oh, wow.
And at that same time I went vegan and continued to just kind of get more and more involved. Worked for CU Animal Rights, founded Rocky Mountain Animal Defense, co-founded Rocky Mountain Animal Defense shortly thereafter, worked on a lot of prairie dog issues, helped found the Prairie Dog Coalition with a wonderful group of other organizations, and it has just continued to sort of grow, and this is where I currently am finding my passion being directed.
Great. Well, hey, it's a good place where you've landed, so
Thank you.
I think that's fantastic.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I landed near you in Rocky Mountain Wildlife Alliance.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on board as a partner, because we definitely share in similar philosophies of community and collaboration. So I think that's really cool. So, well, we are just about out of time today. I'd really like to thank our special guest, David Crawford. It has been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us and teaching us more about this really important resource that is available.
Thank you, Emily. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate it.
If you would like to share this podcast, it is free and available for everyone. You can find this podcast and others on our website, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and more. Tell us what you think of our show by using the hashtag #MyWildlifeStyleRadio. If you would like more information on Animal Help Now, visit our partners page or our resource page. Also, stay informed and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today for My Wildlife Style Radio. I look forward to bringing you more educational topics soon.